guys, welcome back to Maverick's Arcade. My name is Chuck, and as you saw, we've got Mortal Kombat 11 running like an arcade machine. No keyboard mouse needed. It launches. It takes a second. It's running a script in the background that I created that you're not seeing that actually launches software to allow you to use a keyboard emulator to play Steam games with two players. And when it's finished, it closes out the virtual controller application and shuts off Steam before returning back to, in my case, Launchbox. So in this video, that's what we're showing you how to do. So let's jump right into it. So we're looking at the console on my machine now, and we're going to go ahead and quit out of Launchbox. So the first thing that you do to set this up is you configure Launchbox to point to the exe of the game. Now in my case, my game is stored, I believe, in my D drive under program files. Nope. It might be my program files here. Yeah, Steam, and then Steam apps, and then, nope, not Steam apps. You know, where all the games go. Common, and then we have Mortal Kombat 11, and then under binaries, not under binaries, under server. Nope, you just gotta find the where the there it is, under binaries, retail, MK11. So that is the exe that launches, that will in turn launch Steam and all that. So the first step you want to do is locate where the exe file is. So in this case, my copy is installed in this location. We're going to go ahead and create a notepad in here. So exe location is right here. So we've got that noted. Now, the first thing we want to install to prepare. So the problem with Steam naturally is that it tries to assume the keyboard is for one player only, and then otherwise joysticks can be used. The problem with that is if you're running, say, for example, an iPack Ultimate, and you want to have keyboard commands by default, which is what it's configured for, to be more compatible with MAME and LEDBlinky and all that stuff, then it needs to be configured as a keyboard emulation. Problem is, again, Steam doesn't allow two players to both be on the same keyboard when it comes to Mortal Kombat 11. So what we need is a middle go-to solution. So for that, I'm using Virtual Controller, and that can be found on... Let me make sure I'm going to the right place first. Yes. So, this website here on SourceForge, it's a VJoy controller. Now, it's not actually VJoy. VJoy is a more simple controller. We're using this application because it supports Xbox controllers. So you download this and install it. And mine is installed to the D drive, and it's installed in my utilities. Oh, that's my Joy to Key. Sorry, program files, virtual controller. You can see in here there's a folder called profiles. But in any case, that is the path to my virtual controller. Installed at, there's my path. And the exe name is here. Now, let me go ahead and launch that. Now I have it down here on my shortcut as well. And it's this little application. Now, what's neat about this application, you go to Settings and I/O Devices, and under Virtual, you can see I have 2 Xbox controllers. And you just set it up basically by hitting this button, Set Up, and you're choosing Xbox. And then you check the box, and you'll have to hit Install. Now, once you hit Install, and it says it's been installed successfully, you'll have to restart. But once you've done that, you can make sure that joystick 1 is plugged in and just hit Plug In. And then joystick 2 is plug in. Now, I could do 3 and 4, but I'm not doing that. I'm just doing 1 and 2. So now, once that's configured, you close this, and it's back at this application, and you go into Controls. And here, you will do like Add a binding. You'll hit Bind and hit Create. And then you're saying from what device on the keyboard do you want to translate to your virtual controller. So on the keyboard, if we press the button, and we can put the button in here. Now be aware, numpad is specifically the numpad keys on the 10 key part of the keyboard. If numlock is not turned on, those keys will not be registered. If you want to just make sure that the number is what you're concerned with, then you want to scroll down and do this option for D0, D1, D2, and so on. That is digit 1, digit 0, whatever it may be. So be aware of that difference. And then, as you can see, I'm saying, in my case, on my control panel, the second player's keyboard for the joystick maps up with the M key. So you have here, it's either up or, M, N, O, P. Yeah, so M is the up key. So I'm saying on the virtual box, on the virtual Xbox controller number 2, the axis for the left stick Y direction, we're setting the setting to 50. And you may be going, wait a minute, why 50? Well, that's because of it's when the button is released. Now, down here we have to have a push and a release for each device, or a press and a release for each device. So you can see when I release M, it sets it back to 50. Because the way the controller works is 50 is in dead center. Let me make sure. When we go to M, for M press, you can see it's 100%. So in the case of the left stick, when you go up, it's 100%. When you let go, it goes to 50%. And when you go down, it goes to 0%. So the down button is N. And you can see it's set that when you press it, it sets left stick Y position to 0. And then when you release N, it sets it back to 50%. Another gotcha that took me a long while to figure out on this software is when it came to the triggers on the Xbox controller, you may want to try to do the press the left stick button. But that's actually the equivalent of, like, a PlayStation would be the R3 or the L3 button. What I was actually trying to configure was a trigger. You can see what that actually is the left, for example, in my controller, the C button is the triggers. And that is configured as an axis left trigger. And then the same thing. The only difference is it's 0 or 100. It doesn't go... Actually, no. No, actually, that's right. So when I press it, it's going up to 100. But when I release C, it's being coded as left trigger release, not a certain percentage. So be aware of that. So once you've got all your settings in here for both controllers, so what you want to do is you want to map out what the keyboard is for each one. And then you want to figure out, for your controls, the best possible layout. Now mine has the joystick, and then it has 6 buttons. And then it has, I had 4 coin buttons on the top for like 4-player games like Ninja Turtles. And actually it's the 4 start buttons. On the front lower part of my arcade, there's 4 insert coins. So you can see them. Well, I'll show you once we launch the arcade. But the key is that Mortal Kombat has actually 10 buttons. 2 of them aren't as important, the start and the back button. So what I programmed my arcade to be was the kicks and the punches are the first 4 buttons. And it's similar to a PlayStation controller where the triangle, circle, square, X are in a diamond formation. Same with the Xbox, it's a diamond formation, just different letters. And then the two side buttons, I set those to be the top buttons for block and switch stance. And then where my start buttons are up higher is the interact or the throw. So that's where it picks the person up and throws them. Or interact is if there's a scene in the set, like there's a little fire pit, you can throw the other enemy's face into the fire pit. It's not going to be used as much, and so I just go up high for that real quick. Now the start button for each player and the back button, I put down on the insert coins in the bottom. So I went ahead and set that up, and then based on your control layout, you may want to set it up differently, but decide how you're going to set it up and then program that into this section. And then you can see there's an option where you can hit run, and that will actually activate the controllers. Now, by using this software, you're going to hear device USB insertion and USB removal stuff all the time. So what I would recommend you do is right click here on sounds in the bottom, and then go down to your section for device connect and device disconnect and set those to none. Otherwise, so it won't be as obtrusive. So we're going to go ahead and hit X on that and close that. So now it's gone. You can see I had a lot of Steam icons loaded there and stuff. So this method, one thing that does happen is the Steam icons and the joystick icons will stay in the system tray until you hover over them because I'm killing the process. So in any case, so then once you've set up your controllers, what you want to do is in your launch box or other emulation system, you want to set up the machine or you want to set up the application as a new app, and you're going to point just to the exe on it. You're going to make sure that your MAME is configured for, or your LEDBlinky is configured to work for unknown games. You're going to go ahead and launch LEDBlinky or launch it through the arcade. Now the problem is, launching it through the arcade, it's not going to launch the virtual controller. It's not going to close Steam out when it's done. It's just kind of messy, but we'll come back to it. So once you've launched Mortal Kombat multiple times, you will then have, let's go ahead and close this for now. And LEDBlinky closed. You can then go into your LEDBlinky controls editor, and then you can look for unknown games. And then you can scroll down and you can find under Windows, you'll find Mortal Kombat. Of course, I've already found it, and I already had my Windows emulation added. And you can see the name it will detect will be Mortal_Kombat_11. So we're going to copy this. And it's yelling at us that you don't want to copy or change the name because it may not be detected. And we know that. We're just doing Control-C to copy the name, and then we're going to hit cancel. And we're going to close the controls editor. We will come back to it. You're going to go into Tools, LED Animation Editor. Now, I've already saved my file, but let me show you the arcade. So as you can see, it's kind of dark on this image, but what this image is doing is my marquee has been lit up orange. My buttons at the back of the arcade, just the red buttons lit up. My normal pause button is disabled because this is Steam. I can't pause it like I can MAME. So I went ahead and disabled that. Now on the side, the flipper button I have lighting up red just because. And then on the bottom, two ground effects that I have on the floor here. You can see here. I have red in the middle, and then I have orange on the sides. And again, the color's not coming out great on that side camera because I have it dimmed so much. But that way my marquee and everything is customized specifically for Mortal Kombat. So then when I go to save this animation, I'm saving it in the LEDBlinky folder under LWA Game Specific Gameplay, and I'm putting in the name of the ROM .lwax. Like in the other video that I have, if you haven't checked it out, how to set up a specific animation file for a specific game. So we're doing this so that Mortal Kombat will have its nice own style and feel to it. So once that's saved, we'll go ahead and close the animation. Now I'm not going to save the current one because I was just messing around. Now in your settings, what I would suggest is under game options that you go ahead and let it speak the game name, but set this to none. Otherwise, when it says name, all the lights flash, and that's just a little too obnoxious. So then the next thing we're going to do is, if you haven't already, I've seen this problem a lot when people try to customize the lights that light up in LEDBlinky. They just can't get the lights to work. And that's because during the whole setup process of the generate LEDBlinky input map, they put all the stuff in here. They put all the color codes in here, but they never assigned what the actual keyboard code is. Like when you hit that number 1 button, player 1, button 1, player 1, button 1, that it's key code A. You know, people forget to put that in there. This is crucial for mapping a lot of the game stuff. Now you can see even when it came to the marquee isn't a button, but I assigned it equals because nowhere else in my arcade do I use equals. So I went ahead and assigned it to the marquee. The benefit is within a game, I can actually set a control with the equal command, and it will light up the way I want. So if I didn't want to do an animation file, I could have hard-coded it. The only issue is, well, I guess it wouldn't even have spoken, but that's fine. I like to do the animation file, and then the actual controls are the only things I put in the controls editor. But again, you have to make sure that these mappings stay consistent throughout your arcade. And then when it comes to the joysticks, you need to make sure to have all the key codes for up, down, left, right, so forth. So we've got all those in there. We verified we have our LED input map set correctly. We're now going into Tools, Controls Editor. We're going back down to Windows, and we're selecting Mortal Kombat 11. And let me go back to the movie theater so you get a little bit better view. So you see here, I have under Common, I have nothing actually, that's fine. I should add Control 8-way and select Primary Control. I'm not going to do any sounds or anything like that. I'm just hitting the button here. And that's going to make sure that if you have an Ultra Stick or other servo motor, it's going to make sure that it's in the right configuration, not 4-way. If it's in 4-way, it'll make sure it's set to 8-way. So then under player 1, I have player 1 joystick up, and I put in orange and I put in key code. Now, while you're creating these, if you can't put the key code in here, one thing you may need to check is to back out, and under MAME, there's a use MAME default control mapping input codes for other emulators. You want to uncheck this. It'll make it a lot easier to make custom application or custom colors for non-MAME games. So make sure that's unchecked, you save it, and then when you open up Controls Editor and we go back to our Mortal Kombat, you'll have the option to put in the key code. So again, don't even concern yourself with what that virtual controller is doing right now. Just set up your commands and the colors correctly. So I have jump, crouch, left, right. They're all orange, so the joystick lights up orange. The front punch I have blue. The back punch I have yellow. Change stance is purple. You can see so forth. Front kick lime. Back kick red. The back button down on the front of the machine is orange. The start button's green. And then up on the top, the block button is orange. The start is green. The back is red. And the up on top where those start buttons are, My interact is blue, and then throw is brighter. It's the cyan. Player 2, I just copied the controls over, so it's got the same, and it's set here for number of players 2. And then Mortal Kombat spelled correctly. 11 is here in the name. So we hit save on that, and then we go ahead and close all this. So LEDBlinky is ready to go. Now the problem is, how do we get these things to run smoothly? Well, I created a folder. Actually, I don't need to do that yet. So I created a folder on my drive called PowerShell scripts with an underscore. And I made this PowerShell script here for Mortal Kombat 11. And you can, use this inspiration to modify it for some other games that use Steam or whatever. But we're going to go ahead and open up in a notepad. Obviously, you can open up a notepad and look at it there, but I like to open it in, type in PowerShell and then do ISC. I'm going to run that. And now I'm going to open my file. Open MK11. So you can see here on this script, let me just give you an idea of what it's doing real quick. You really don't need to be a programmer to do this. Just look through what I'm saying here. Take my code, copy it into a folder on your machine. And then this first section here, so this first part here, the right here, makes it so that they'll flicker blue, but then otherwise you will not see the script running. If you are first installing all of this, you'll want to do little pound symbols all the way up to this point to see the console window and what it's doing. But again, for us, we want it hidden. So the first thing to see here is you see exe file. This is the path to the exe file that MK11 is running. Again, we copied that from here. Just to confirm, E drive program files, common. Yep, that's a match. And then I have a thing here for debug preference and error action. It's telling it to silently continue and ignore. What that means is if there's an error, it's not going to throw a red thing in the script window. It's just going to keep going and pretend like it didn't happen, which is what we want. It's a little cleaner. This initial wait time, I have it set for 1. This is 1 second. So as it's waiting for the application to load, every second it's checking to see if the application's loaded. Once it's loaded, it basically then starts listening for keyboard commands. Now, we have, is the application loaded yet? Or application's not loaded, it starts out as true. And this whole thing, just shrink that, ignore that. So then it says launching virtual controller. So this is the path directly to the exe with exe name. But then you have to make sure to have working directory be the path to where that exe file is. This is important or else your scripts will not load. Then we have an argument list, which is run. We're going to load, and you can see here, this is the name of the variable. So this is what the file name would be. So for example, in our exe name up here, what this part right here is doing is you have the exe file, which is the full path to the file and the exe. And then we have exe base name, which basically says grab out just this portion, and then the second part of that, without extension, removes the .exe. So it just knows it to be MK11. Okay? The reason why that's important is because in the script here, I have it saying in the virtual controllers to load the name of, in this case, when it goes to load, it's going to launch the application. It's going to do a command switch of run. Then it's doing a command switch of load. In this case, mk11.vcd. and then /minimize. So it launches that. And so basically, once you've set your settings in here, you do File, Save. Now the auto run is the default, but then I set this to MK11. Now what's nice is you can set up multiple configurations and save them under different settings and so forth. But really, once you've configured them both, you can use that for anything. But I gave myself the option to make it different automatically by having it take that shrunken name and working with it. So in any case, I used MK11. I saved a copy to here, and I saved it to MK11. And then I told my script, hey, when you're running, make sure to pull the file name off of it without the extension and use that with .vcd. So anyways, that will launch. And you're going to see that, so the minimize also makes it so it doesn't appear. What you'll see when the application is running correctly, if you were to open it, you'll see it's green. That means the virtual controllers are installed and responding the way you want. So then we're going to hit stop though, and we're going to close this just for now. So at this point in our script, it's launched the virtual controller, and then it's trying to launch the full path to the exe file. In this case, what would happen is it would launch Steam, and it would launch Mortal Kombat 11. Now, the reason why I made this script is because a lot of times if you launch out to an application and the window closes immediately, the LEDBlinky will go back to its arcade settings, not the one for the game you're playing. So we have this window in the background quietly sitting there just to keep all the LEDBlinky and everything correct. Also, as you've seen in many games, you can't use your normal escape key that you would for other emulators with Steam. It's just not going to work. So, what we have here is, in my case, my arcade uses, on the back part of the arcade, I have a stop button. And for all my other emulators, when I hit that stop button, it closes the emulator and goes straight back to, in my case, Launchbox. And the key, that button, is bound to escape. So, what this script is also doing is, at this point, it's launched the exe, but it's waiting initially, in this case, the 1 second up at the top, for the exe to load. It then says, hey, it looks in the processes and sees if it's loaded. If it is, it says the exe is loaded in the little window that you can't see anyway. But it changes this variable from it's not loaded to false. Then in the next line of this loop, it says, if the app not loaded equals false, then it says it's leaving the process, it breaks, and then it goes to this next line and continues on. Otherwise, it says the application is still not loaded, continuing to wait. It waits another second, and then it loops through. Again, checking the process. If it's still not loaded, it loops again. If it is loaded, then it says it's false, and it leaves the process and brings us back down to here. It then knows that the exe base name is the name of the process. And it says monitoring for Keypress. Now, I have a little thing in here for X, just so that whenever X is hit, the log would show that X is pressed. Again, that's just for me to verify that the key logging is working. That's all this is. Now, you can comment that out. That's not a problem. You just go dink, 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 and dink. And that's fine. That just removes that X option if you want to do that. Up here, though, if key is equal to character 27, which is escape, then what it's going to do is it's going to write host, the key was pressed, killing the process. And then it's going to automatically stop the process with that exe name, MK11. And then when you see here that it does break, that means it's leaving this loop. Or it's going to loop back and notice that the process is gone. So it leaves this loop as well. So right here at this point, it's killed the MK11. So it closes like that. Then the next part of the line kills the virtual controller software. And then this last one, which if this isn't a Steam, if you modify this for a non-Steam game, you would want to comment out the Steam part. But we're going to leave Steam selected there. So again, what the script is doing is it launches, it realizes where everything is, it launches the virtual controller in a running mode, so it'll automatically be green. Now, if we wouldn't have disabled that sound, then at that point you would hear a ding, 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 ding from 2 controllers virtually connecting. Then it launches Mortal Kombat, so first Steam has to load, and on the initial load, it takes a while for it to boot up. Once it boots up, then Mortal Kombat starts to boot up. And then again, this is all happening in a little window that's been disappeared, so you don't have to see a big ugly blue screen on your thing. So then once Mortal Kombat loads, the system knows that it's loaded, it starts watching for the Keypress. And it will stay like that, and because the window's staying open because it's waiting on a Keypress or for the Mortal Kombat process to end, then your LEDBlinky lights and colors will all stay correct. Once the process is either ended naturally, or you forcefully close it by hitting your escape key or whatever you've set your stop button to be, then it will automatically kill the virtual controller, and at that time you will hear beep boop from 2 controllers being removed. Then after that, it closes the Steam application, so you're not wasting resources on your arcade machine running Steam when you don't need to be running Steam. So once you've got this script modified for yours, and I will have a link to it below in the description, but once you've modified that file, what you want to do is in your emulator software, in my case, this is Launchbox, you want to change your application location to point to the PowerShell file. And let me show you where that is. So you go into our application, you hit edit, and you can see mine is set PowerShell scripts launch MK11 PS1. As long as that's set, then when we go into big box mode, close all this, close this, and close this, and go back to our arcade view, you can watch the process. So we're going to go ahead and launch our big box. And we're going into... Now I'll have to try it from the arcade machine.
Punch. Back punch. Change stance. Front kick. Back kick. Block. Start. Back. Interact. Throw.
There it goes. So as you can see, we're sitting here. Now if I hit escape now, it would kill the process. Even though this thing is making me wait in the game, it would kill the process. Now see, for this, I can't send the command from here, so let me walk over there for a minute. Now, you saw before I could close this by hitting exit, but also, if I hit, you'll notice the buttons, I made sure to program them so that whatever the green button is on the Xbox, I made sure it was green and LEDBlinky. Because you can see here, I have an option that says B for quit. Well, I don't even have an Xbox, so I'm not sure what colors are what, but I know red, if I hit this red one, that must be B then. Now this part messed me up a little bit because it's now using keyboard commands here. But green is enter. Or green is the acknowledge command for this. So if you want to quit the game. Now again, I could hit escape and force it closed. And then it would detect the key press and automatically close the other applications as well. But because my script's running, it will detect that the process is no longer running on its own and clean it up for me as well. So when I hit the green button here and close the application gracefully, it'll take a second. In this case, the marquee doesn't go back automatically, but when I move the mouse, or I move the joystick, it detected that the process was no longer running, and my LEDBlinky information and everything switched back. Now, when I quit my front end, you can see my joystick software is not loaded. But here in the home tray, you can see there's 3 copies of Steam from the 3 times we launched it and 3 joystick things. But when we put our mouse over it, they all clean up. There's no joystick running. There is no Steam running. It cleaned itself. So, let me know what you guys think. Leave comments below. Make sure to share this, please, with any other arcade friends you have or any other groups you may be in. Please just, reference the YouTube video all over the place. I'm trying to grow that channel, and that will definitely help. And again, check the link below for the PowerShell script. I will include that, and I will make it front focus the application before I upload it. So that fix will already be in there. But again, let me know what you guys think. And as always, thanks for watching.
Make sure to check out the links above for some of my other videos, and definitely smash that subscribe button. Also, make sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any episodes. I'm continually trying to grow this channel, so make sure to like, comment, and share on all your favorite social media platforms. To find more content for this channel, check out the following locations. YouTube is the primary location where I publish the final versions of my how-to videos. I use Facebook for communication, notices about upcoming videos, behind-the-scenes pictures and videos, and the occasional live stream. For live streams, I primarily use Twitch, as it generally provides the least latency for the closest to real-time response rate currently available. I will occasionally multicast to Facebook and Twitch at the same time, but Twitch generally seems to have the least delay, so I prefer it for streaming events. And as always, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.